Well, hello and welcome. This is Robert Arthur along with my co-host Jim Rhodes up in St. George, Utah.
And also another person from St. George who is going to be our special guest. And I'll let Robert have the honors of introducing him here. But I am very excited because I've known this gentleman for many, many years. And it's awesome what he can share in knowledge because of his background. So I'm looking forward to this call especially.
I am as well. He's already impacted many, many lives because of this community we're all part of, and long before that in the healing arts, as well as transformational coaching. So before we go there, just a promotion, guys. Jim and myself have been doing these interviews, Jim, for 6 months now.
Yes.
And we have some beautiful people that have been on here, beautiful inside and out, sharing real and raw stories and journeys. So Jim and myself invite you to look closely at some of the past interviews, either on the team YouTube channel or on the Facebook page, and that we host with the co-host with the company. And you can find all these interviews and just real stories, real interviews to share and learn more. So we invite you to do that. And the VIP on this line is, yes, our guest. And it's you watching this.
Those
Zoom.
who are taking time out of their lives to gain knowledge, which they can apply and make maybe improved decisions about their own health journey. And that's what's exciting about this, because this is real and raw, it hasn't been scripted. And so what you hear is from people's hearts, and that's what makes them excited about what they say and can help us.
Yes. So we welcome you. So thanks for being on tonight.
Yes, we do.
And tuning in. We'll be saying hi. If you're on here live, we'll be saying hi in just a moment. If you're watching this recording again, welcome. So I've met our guest tonight. I've met his beautiful daughter, Jessica Graf. She is one of those beautiful smiling hearts and faces and voices at our Zalevo corporate headquarters. And part of our interview tonight, we'll hear from her actually home front, her dad, when his daughter brought home, Dad, look what I got. And that'll be a fun part of the interview tonight. So Dr. Graf, oh my goodness, 25 years now in the healing arts, very successful practice, obviously, there in St. George. You've, let me pull up a little more here. Mentoring as well, coaching, team building at some very high levels. Thank you for that. And again, from what I know from the pre-brief, you're all about helping people through that healing process and helping them step into what we'd call their kind of God-given power and nutrition and kind of optimize how they live life. So thank you for being here tonight. Jim, anything you want to add to as we bring on Dr. Troy Graf tonight?
Well, I am just honored, number one, and grateful that he has agreed to share with us some of his own journey, and I'm excited to hear a little more about that personally, even though he and I have been friends for a good part of that 20 years. And that's kind of unusual to have met him that long ago. And I've watched his progress and people that he has worked with and their change up and improvement greatly. And that's what's exciting. It's not just that we go out and get knowledge. When you apply that knowledge, which is what he's been helping them do, and what he does with them through his service to them, has made a big difference in their outcome.
So Dr. Troy, welcome.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you very much. So as far as I'm honored to be here myself, I appreciate the introduction. This has been quite a journey clinically going through and getting to this destination right now, using Zalevo in my office, using it personally. And, you know, I like to put all my products to my personal test before I ever allow myself to bring in a product line. And in a way, it really did revamp my entire process on all of my nutrition front, at least with my patients. And so it's nice having a central product line that makes it so that I don't have to worry as much about helping my patients on a fundamental nutritional level. And so when I know I have people from out of town that I'm not going to be able to see or support very easily, that I can just give them the information about Zalevo. It basically has all of the support, great videos that are able to answer a lot of their questions. I don't have to do what I've done in the past, which is spend lots of education time, which as a practitioner, time is very important. And when getting behind, it's like people need to understand what they're taking. And so there's kind of a sacrifice of who do I have that's going to be waiting now as I explain, the benefits of let's say a process or a product, and then I'm behind. And so that's always been a challenge is what can I do to not only great products, make it so it's easy for people to sustain on their own so that they don't have too many questions and they don't give up. That's the other thing is attrition.
Yes.
Is making sure that they have an understanding and a motivation that they can continue independent of me needing to constantly be holding their hand. So Zalevo is awesome at that. That's the thing that really I've been able to appreciate. Not so much in the beginning, I didn't know that was even a factor. I was just impressed with the products. And then as I was meeting the team and seeing all the tools they had, then I was like very surprised in a great way that I wouldn't have to spend so much of my time with each individual patient, and that I could just turn over a video and say, watch this, I'll be back and answer the question, or take this home, watch it, and I'll see you on your next visit. That's like awesome.
It's called turnkey. That's really unusual.
Yeah, turnkey.
Because it is beautiful. And thank you for sharing that part. That is the truth. The amount of effort that this company's gone into to help the lay people understand why they would want to use this every day for the rest of their lives takes that precious time that you have in not having to educate to the point of what just they can sit down and watch the very people who help put these master formulations together in the first place, what it can do to help move the needle in their own health journey.
Correct.
Yeah. So it's
people need to understand what is the benefit. In the beginning, oftentimes that my patient base would just agree to follow through on a month or two of the program, but that isn't really the objective. The objective is to change their life. And we don't do that for 2 months and then having a person just quit. And so that's where the products married with great support education is the part that makes it so that I don't have to be involved, and that they can continue to share it with others. I don't need to be involved with the sharing. I don't need to be involved with anything. That the depth of education is any product they have a question on. There's something that is in layman's terms, and it's like in doctor terms, if necessary, there's support for both. And so it is turnkey. And that is, that's not very common. Even in professional lines, it's like, that's not common at all.
Absolutely. And your patients remain your patients, not another company's patients. They're yours. And
Right.
that also builds loyalty to you, which is what doctors need and want, and freeing up
Right.
their time so they can almost like script it and say, hey, I know what this will do because I've seen it in the past. So follow through and get it.
Right.
So I'd love to know a little more about the backstory too. So you said 25 years now in chiropractic, Dr. Graf?
Yes. So I graduated in 95, opened my practice here in St. George in 96, and I did not have any experience in working under another practitioner. I just opened up on my own. And so during that time, there are colleagues that initially said, well, you'll need at least 2 years to get some experience and, just to learn the ropes on how to do business in general. And so I was never really, how would I say, that was not my style. I just would like to just jump in and go, I think I can do this on my own. And there's plenty of people that I believe would be able to help me with questions, with individual, challenges. I feel that there would be people that would be there, and they were. So I was able to just jump in and open my own practice. And initially it was Graf chiropractic and nutritional care. So nutrition was a central role. And I remember visiting a couple of my colleagues that were chiropractors at the time. That was in '96. And they saw the name of my practice and they said, "You're crazy. It's a waste of time and money to do nutrition. No one's going to listen. And there's no money in it at all. And so you're going to spend all of your time educating people and you're not going to, be able to adjust people." And I was like, well, it's necessary. And so, and it was a missing piece in people's health. At that point, wellness centers were not a thing. There was no such thing as a wellness center. And so, nutrition, again, even in chiropractic, was few and far between. And so that was when I initially, I think, met Jim, is that I was incorporating nutrition from another company into my program. And I was using professional products at that point. I had gone and had certification with different programs that use kinesiology and biofeedback to be able to, make things very custom for my patients. So, and that's what we try to do, is help people that had chronic problems, make it so they could break free. Individuals that didn't have problems, make it so they never had problems, so that they could somehow, maintain their health. And so it's like, in a way, at that point, what type of formulas that were out there in professional lines, it was that there was a totally different need for both of those type of clients. So I ended up, becoming a nutrition store in a way, where I had, 100 and something products on the shelf from different companies, because, each company had a different virtue. They would be good at 5 or 6 products, and they'd have, I don't know, 200 products, in my opinion. And so, there was obviously things that I never used that were maybe good in each company, but for my in particular patient base, for me, I would only, like, let's say, use a few things that I felt were key and that other programs didn't have. And so I found that it was a challenge having orders that I would have to order from 5 to 10 companies on a weekly basis. And it would be that there would be maybe 5 products I'd have to order, up to 50 products with each order from each individual company, which was like a part-time job for me as a practitioner, and no one else could do it, because it's like the products were too professional, and the fact that no one else would even know what they were. So I couldn't delegate it. It became a necessary evil. And there was a period of time where I decided, I threw in the towel and I said, I'm not going to give any nutrition. And I went for about 2 years not doing any nutrition. And because it was such a headache, and it was like, it was the most relaxing time of practice, but it was a catastrophe in a lot of ways, because at the time I was finding that when my patient base, they weren't really chronic pain type of patients. They were individuals that wanted to have a better quality of life. They wanted to have blood sugar that was balanced. They wanted to have digestive systems that were repaired. They wanted to sleep differently. They weren't chiropractic patients. They were wellness patients that didn't want drugs. And they basically had no other recourse at the time. There weren't a lot of other practitioners in Southern Utah that were either wanting to do that or qualified to do that. And so I had a whole bunch of people show up, and it was like, wow, I couldn't delegate to other doctors. I had some time where I was educating some other doctors that were working with me, and they just were having a hard time mastering that. So I ended up basically just doing nutrition, why I had the other doctors adjust everyone, because that was enough of a need. So it became overwhelming. And that's why for a period of 2 years, I thought, you know what, I'm just done with this. So I was mentioning before that those patients stopped actually getting great successes, because nutrition was a necessity. And as I started in '96 up until now, what used to be simple, I would adjust people and they would get well in the beginning. Then I would adjust people and it's like, oh, you need minerals. And it's like, and then it'd get well. And then minerals wasn't enough. And I'd adjust people and give them minerals. And then I had to find something else, digestive enzymes. And then, they got well, and then that wasn't enough. So over time, it seems like people got sicker and food became more problematic, food from the grocery store, that it wasn't adequate. So there was more of a need for supplementation. And so when I had enough people complain that they weren't seeing success with just me adjusting them and doing neurology, which helped before a lot, but it got to a point where I needed to jump back into nutrition. So the constant search for nutrition companies that would provide quality nutrition was an ever, it was never ending. It was looking for, where is the secret, sauce that will make it so that my patients would have simple and it would be easy. And, year after year, it never got easier. It got harder for me even. And I found that I needed to do more and more education and jumping into doing epigenetics and finding out what we need to do with different nutritionals with that. I tried that for a while. And so got into doing lab work. There's all kinds of, the journey of, I wonder if this is the silver bullet. If I do enough, what would I say, medical lab testing, maybe that'll be the thing. And so, did that for a few years. Always kind of had my process was that I would at least check things, even if they were coming back with labs. I would check with kinesiology and just go back to the basics that I started with. And that's where it was like having a combination of Eastern Western medicine is really what I really focused on. And so again, helped a ton of people, but it became more and more laborious because I have felt, at least, that people just got more and more challenged with their health, and they needed more and more of what I felt like I wasn't able to deliver with technology and protocols and programs and supplements that I had before. So it was like constantly looking.
Is that when Zalevo came into your?
Fast forward, because there was even more transition, because it's like during that time, we did functional neurology and have helped a lot of people with that. I do brain mapping. We help a lot of people with that. But still, at the same time, these are things that help, but it's like without nutrition, without the proper nutrition, there's limitations. There's a glass ceiling. Yeah. So did a lot of detox work, did tons of emotional release work, which is like awesome. I love that still. So the mind and the brain, working on both of those are huge. Working on the metabolism is what I use Zalevo for. And then I do a fraction of the work with chiropractic because I do everything else first. And then the chiropractic, I do 1/10 of that, and I get better results doing it in the right order. So that's what I've found over, this is my 25th, 6th year, something like that. And so Zalevo came about a year and a half ago. It was December of 2020. I think it was 2020. Yeah. And so that's when my daughter, she was not married yet. She was living at home, and she was looking for her passion. And so she's very talented, and she has lots of skills that when people meet her, they're like very impressed. And she came that way. I think, she's a byproduct of her mother, and just that's how she came. That was that's her character. So, yeah. And she is a perfectionist, and so, and possibly that's for me. So as far as that's kind of like, that can be a double-edged sword. So, so she came home one evening and she goes, "Dad, you got to try these new products. I'm employed at this new job, which I love, and I love all the people, and they stand for the things that I stand for, and they have great character, and they're leaders, and they're mentors." And I was like, "Wow, honey, that sounds awesome. That's right up your alley. I'm so glad that you have found something that that you can really pour your energy into." And she goes, "But you got to test stuff." And I was thinking, I don't want to blow your bubble. I don't want to burst that bubble there, because you're so happy. And I know when I test things energetically, kinesiologically, I'm going to find that it's not great, because it never is. I will find a flagship product that is their main product. And then I'm going to have to be honest, and I'm going to, probably find that there's problems with these other products. So in the techniques that we use, I can kind of determine what the quality of a product is, and I just kind of scale it out on a scale from 0 to 10 on how it energetically tests. And I was like, okay, let's see how this is. So they're in these cool black, how would I say, very, very attractive bottles and bags. And I was thinking, wow, the marketing is amazing. So that's probably all that's going to be is it's going to be something that's more show than being able to actually deliver. So anyway, she came over, and I remember I was doing the muscle testing with her, and I wanted to make sure that things were accurate. So I used some products as just to verify that things were that she was healthy enough that it would be an accurate test. And so I got that all squared away, and then one product after another, we tested it, and all of them tested strong. And I've never had that happen before. So I think at the time, there were 7 products at the time. And I said, wow, I said, they're all strong. And I said, let's see how they pulse. And that's pulsing them, to see if they're a 10 or a 9 or an 8 or whatever they are. And I don't use any products in my practice unless they are a 7 out of 10 or higher. And so, and then everybody's individual. So there's things that work for some and not for others. So with that, then she tested great on each of the products. So I tested myself, and I tested great on every one of them except for trim. And it's because I don't have any weight to lose, I guess. So probably be a problem if I took trim.
Yes, there would be. You'd disappear.
I'd disappear. So yeah. And I always test myself, and I never test for trim. That's just me. So it's like when I go through products, I test it with different patients, and there's those that are really, really challenged. I find that I still need to use maybe some other products from other lines, and just temporarily, but I tell them straight up, I say, my eventual goal is to make it so you take care of your own nutrition, and that this is going to be what you're going to take as your wellness formula. So that's what I have as my objective with my patients. And it's like, there are some individuals that I have to do some special techniques with that are still really sick, and I'll use other product lines to get them to that point. But what I always like to do is teach them the basics, and then go watch the videos, and then you will be able to just follow through once you understand what I understand. But I don't have to then teach like I used to teach. So that has relieved a lot of stresses. And that is like what I said, it's a 1.5 years ago. So what that's been in time.
Wow.
That's not that long of a time, and look at what the journey has already brought, and,
Right.
Yeah, interesting. I love the part of the story, and we covered this in the pre-brief, I know, a week ago, but when your daughter was coming home all proud, I'm sure Jessica, bouncing positive, and you were said, honey, I love you, but, and then how it tested throughout the line. I know we have other, for lack of a better word, practitioners who do energy work. I do as well. I do body work as well. But he tested, he's coming on in 2 weeks, Dr. Troy. But he also tested this, and it was amazing, wasn't it, Jim? What the result was as far as the energetic. I'm not sure what his term for that type of test, but it was significant. He had never had even close to the energy, like 7-foot reading that he received just from our Ultra 30 shake, for example. So yeah, it's a lot of good energy is in that living food. So
right.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So obviously she came home, you tested, and now what was your personal, you've already been very fit, healthy. Did you see any shifting in your own body?
So that's a good question. So for me, so that was December. I started taking it in December, and I used it, the shake especially. So I did the Fortitude 85 faithfully, and with at that point it was plant, it was the Ultra 30. So I did vanilla mainly, Ultra 30. And then now I do the whey isolate, which I love. I like that. I test stronger for it, and it tastes great. And so yeah. I'm like all in. It's been a while since I've had the Ultra 30 because it's just like, I like the whey isolate so much better.
I'll do the plant. We're all, one for all of us. So it's all good.
Yep, that's something. And I have people that actually test that. Some people test that they can't handle the whey isolate. It's very interesting. And then they test great for the Ultra 30.
Plant-based, yep.
So I'm glad I have that option in my office. For me, I'm glad I have the option for the way, because it's just like I have it pretty much every day. So we were talking, Jim, that it's just like life is interesting, that we get into a routine and we get into a pattern that is like our cruise. We cruise in life. We as people, typically, we just kind of cruise along with it. If something works, we keep doing the same thing. So, I pretty much had a crisis in my personal life that made it so that now I'm much more dependent on Zalevo products, because of now I'm a widower. And so it's like that is in the last many months, 9 months. So now guess what? I have pretty much my meals, because I'm not great at fixing food for myself. And I'm an empty nester, thank goodness. So as far as it's just me. So when I come home, instead of having the meal that I used to have, and then I would use my Zalevo products as like a post-workout for muscle, I have it as one of my mainstays. It's just like, sometimes I take it twice a day. That's just my thing. So life throws twists and turns. And so, I have that as my main thing now. I make sure I always have some protein at the office. I have it at home. And so, rather than to fast and disappear due to being busy and not taking care of myself, which is a common thing as a practitioner, is that there's like time is really valuable. And so I can create an amazing shake that's a Zalevo oriented protein smoothie that, whether it's frozen banana, where I get them, green bananas, I cut them up and freeze them, and I toss in a half a banana, or I throw in a couple of strawberries, or I do some blueberries. And I use it as my combo, with some different fruits. And then sometimes I'll throw in some frozen baby spinach, make it a green drink with having, protein. So it's like I have determined that, for me, it's just easier to have a shake on the road as I drive into work now, because of my life has changed. And so, that's just something else. I don't know if you even knew that about me, but, life throws like different wrenches at us. And I'm glad, again, for Zalevo, that's something that I use now. So now here's another thing. So now I'm in the dating life. I never expected to be dating. What is like, I'm single now. That is the weirdest thing ever. So the next thing is that taking the collagen. Why am I taking the collagen? Well, because now I'm an eligible bachelor. That's the worst thing ever. But at the same time, it's like I have the desire to not look my age. That's kind of the whole point, is that it's like now I'm on the market. That's the weirdest thing ever. And so it's like, so taking the collagen is like, I do that every day. So also at nighttime, I take a burn at nighttime. So I do a burn. It helps me with my blood sugar. I don't have blood sugar problems, but I don't want blood sugar problems. So at nighttime, probably 4 of the 7 nights out of the week, I'll go to bed. Right before I go to bed, I'll use a burn. So, it's just like, I am focusing on longevity, and I'm focusing on making sure that I'm in my best of shape. And so I tell my patients straight up, Zalevo is the thing that makes it so that eventually I won't be an eligible bachelor. And eventually, God willing, it's like I'll find somebody that actually probably doesn't know what my age is. That's my goal. And so, at least right away, it's that we are what we eat, we are what we absorb. And I'm like, a big part of my journey right now is making sure I get high quality nutrition, because I'm more interested in my looks and my health and my ability to, how would I say, function at top, even more than I was when I was, 2 years ago.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
When I was just in my social life.
Dr. Troy, some of the comments are talking about matchmakers thinking creatively now, and so you never know. Anyway, yeah, and that's true, isn't it? That it'd be one thing if this was a marketing conversation, and this is a passion conversation. And personally, I know all three of us now, and that we know you're more of your personal habits. I know me, I thrive, and you just said on this food and these supplements. Jim, I know you do. So
can you imagine on your way to work, cooking your breakfast on the way by doing this shake and nom nom nom? And it's the healthiest meal of the day.
Yeah, I'm good. And I used to basically crash in my practice. I would go and I would be like, I need to take a break because my blood sugar is like dropping. And so I need to eat something. And so what I'll do is I will actually take a larger amount of protein with me. I'll do like 3 scoops, and I'll have like say 1-ish scoop on the way in as I drive. And then I'll have a larger protein drink that is like 2 more scoops, 30 grams of protein, that I will drink, throughout the next few hours, which is maybe not optimal, but it's awesome for me. So that it's like I have it, it's all frozen. It stays like nice and frozen in these nice like thermos type of containers. So it tastes awesome for like 4 hours. And it's like it turns into my brunch and sometimes my lunch. And so you know what? I'm batching it right now. I'm doing the bachelor thing. And so that works for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I find the same thing. If I have a long day of massage sessions with my clients too, I'll either do that or I'll even sip. I find that if I sip on we have a product called eVibe, if you're watching, eVibe and Burn, I can coast much longer than I can maintain a good blood sugar energy for those hours lined up as well. So yeah, that's the beauty here as well. It's practical, and it's a wonderful gift, helping all three of us personally and so many other people. So is there any other, well, first of all, let's ask the group, if you're watching this live, now's the time to pose any questions as we kind of tidy this up tonight. So you'll hear me saying this 30 seconds after the fact. So in case you see me looking at I'm looking at you looking at us on this line, but it's 30 seconds. It's like a time warp. So Dr. Troy, in closing, is one of my questions in closing. What are 2 things? You've been in natural holistic medicine for 25, 26 years. What are 2 things that people do, landmines that they can avoid? What are the 2 of the biggest landmines you've seen people that derail, nutritionally speaking, that derail people from having optimal health?
I think what it is that first of all, they quit. So I would say what happens is oftentimes people will be like, I'm feeling so good, I guess I'm done. And so I talk about, symptoms are like when people are on fire. So I have like when they're basically having symptoms, they're into the negative. So they're having negative numbers. If they're going to evaluate themselves, I'll say, how bad is it? They'll say it's a 4. So I say, you mean it's a -4. So you're basically underwater, or you're kind of like burning up. You're on fire. You're a 4. I said, when we get you to a 0, then you're not going to have any symptoms. But I don't like leaving my patients at a 0. I don't want you to be a 0. 0 means you're not having any complaints, but you're not really awesome, because your function becomes positive at that point. So if you quit when you're a 0, meaning you have no symptoms, are we really where you want to be? So it's like when individuals, when they are like challenged with the I want to quit, oftentimes they become that. And if they don't understand that their function is like going up from there, above 0, like that has to do with how they work. The function has nothing to do with symptoms. You should have 0 symptoms when you're into function. 0. If you're having symptoms, you're on fire. So I would tell people is like that doesn't work. If you're only going to have me play fireman, then that gets really like taxing. So I will help you, but I like being a contractor and helping build you, which means that first I wear my fireman gear and I will help you. We'll put out your fire. You're like, running around like on fire. And so I will help you with that. But it's no fun to make it so that we don't rebuild you. And then, you're still smoking. I'm being facetious with them. I try to joke with them a little bit so they can understand that it's just like, if you're just going to use healthcare to not have symptoms and you don't do anything proactive to build and make your life amazing, then that's basically doing half of the opportunity to create the life you want. So which is a part of when I start mentoring them is like, you know what, it's symptoms don't have to be pain. Symptoms can be like, I'm sad, or I'm like depressed, or I feel not great. So that's, again, that's emotionally on fire. So it's like, if you want to build or create the life you want, then don't quit. Don't quit when you get to a point where it's like, well, at least I'm not depressed. And it's like, well, but are you happy? Because it's like, there's kind of a difference from I'm not anything, I feel nothing, to actually have joy. Does that make sense?
No, I
Sure
love that.
does.
And look at the segue, look at the connection with Zalevo. What does our Zalevo name mean? You know, helping you
Right.
achieve your highest potential, you know,
I
stepping into
know.
that next
I
level.
love it. I love it.
Yeah,
It's true.
perfect matchup there. So don't quit. So quitting is a big, huge landmine to avoid. What's number
Oh, yeah,
two?
totally. Oh, I would say part of it is they match together, is that it's like the first step is hope, is that oftentimes individuals, they lack hope. And it's like they've been told, well, you know what, my dad had this, or my uncle had this, and he didn't really have it like go away. So I don't even know if I'm expecting too much for anything to be better. So I don't even know if I should start. So it's like starting is one thing and not quitting is another thing. So it's like, I know that sounds kind of ironic, but it's like starting, like give it a chance. So I'll, you know, tell people, it's like, okay, here's the thing. It's like Zalevo is so amazing that they have a money back guarantee for 30 days. It's like, why don't you just try it? What do you have to lose?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I don't know anybody. I can't go to Albertsons and try 30 days of groceries and then go back and go, dude, I want my money back, even though everything is eaten. No one does that,
Hope they don't.
right?
They don't. Well, sometimes,
Anyway.
well, often enough, the most basic, simplest reminders are the best answers. So, you know, starting and then quitting, two big words to do right.
That's,
I love it.
I knew you were wanting something much more cerebral, something
Not
really that is going to
necessarily.
be earth shattering.
You've been on any calls with Jim and myself. We like simple. We like bring us down to earth.
Okay.
Don't talk up here, you know.
Sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep,
No,
that's
seriously.
it.
Yeah, seriously. I love it. We do have some couple questions here. So guys, let's honor those who showed up tonight on the live. Scott, good evening. Jill said, hey, all in caps, Dr. Troy. Jill said, I love all the modalities that Dr. Graf helps people with and helps them heal in his office. One of the comments, I'm looking for a kinesiologist. Maybe you can do that long term or virtually. Debbie Cartwright,
Yeah.
Secret Sauce, thank you. Carolyn, Elaine, and Kathy's on. Andy, thank you for bringing Andy SH. And then we have Elaine and Deb. Kathy's on. Thank you, guys. Kathy said, I love this. I wish Dr. Graf practiced here, which is Phoenix. I think he's happy in St. George. One last question. Jill said, what are the formulations that you use the most with your patients? Or is there?
I would say I start out with the Fortitude 85. Everybody needs to have minerals. And I tell people, in order to make it so that your body's going to respond electromagnetically, then it's like it has to do with minerals. You have to have polarity. When people have a challenge with testability, it's because they're not polar. And so they're either dehydrated, but dehydration to most people is I don't have enough water. It's usually, I find dehydration is that they don't have enough minerals to utilize the water. And so that makes it so they can't hold the process, whether it's with acupuncture, they don't hold. With massage, they don't hold. It's like the stability, they don't hold. Because electromagnetically, it's the ability to actually move energy kind of with chi is based on the ability for flow. And you have to have polarity, which is the Fortitude helps immensely with polarity. And so that's the first thing I start with. That's what I've found over 2 decades, is that minerals is like one of the most important things for the ability to hold healing space. And so yeah, that's what I would say. The basics of life, I tell people, you know what, it's like, how long can you live without, I'll say, food? You know, and they'll go, oh, a long time. And I'll go, let's say it's like Moses or something like that. Let's just say it's like 40 days, whatever it is. It's just like, we're going to do 40 days. So it's like, okay, that's, I can do it without food a long time. How long can you do it without water? And it's like, well, like 4 days, it's just like, okay. And it's like, when it gets down to, the basics, is like, how long can you do it without air? It's like, well, like 4 minutes, so it's like things that are basic. Minerals are one of those basic things. So it's like, it goes with the water. So how you breathe is a big deal. People don't breathe very well. They hold their breath with stress, messes with their ability to be polar. And then I go into salts or minerals, which is going to be right with the water, which is like, that's one of the most basic necessities, is making sure that you have hydration, which is guided by minerals that are polar, which is, charged particles. That you are of the earth, you will return to the earth. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's nature is the indicator. If you're gonna like dishonor nature, good luck on being healthy. There's not a medication out there on planet Earth that is going to make it so that if you mess up how you breathe and how you actually take in water and use water, good luck.
Yeah, I did. That leads to a personal question for you. If you say you're really focused on, mineralization, which leads to hydration and the flow, so why fortitude above the shake for mineral content?
The shake is a part of everything I do anyway, but if a person has to choose, then it's like, okay, what in St. George, we basically have temperatures that are not as bad as Phoenix, but it's that people perspire a lot. And so I just tell them, what, why don't we just do fortitude? If all you can afford to do is one thing, then we're going to do fortitude. And so it has to do with the cost ratio, the value of what they can get. Now, if they can get both, then I go, I want you to have, the second one would be the protein, the ultra. And then if I find that they definitely need protein, then they're going to get minerals, from that, because they're cofactors within the shake itself anyway. But I haven't talked to Kirsty on finding out what exactly the quantity is. I just basically have determined that, that's due to my ignorance, that if we have to choose one, we're going to do the fortitude.
Yeah. No, that's cool. And that was a great answer. Again, raw and real. Everybody, and what we're finding, even with these level of interviews, there's different approaches, different priorities, different even pathway to get to where you are, how you approach your work. So that's the beauty of this too, is that we have the course system. You can mix and match.
Right.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here. Is there one last call to action, a reminder for people watching this live or this recording as we end this?
Well, I guess if anybody wants any help, that's my purpose and passion, is to help people that have been stuck. So it's like individuals that are like wanting to have a breakthrough, and that they don't have somebody in their area, then, I do things over the phone. I can take care of it, because energy by itself is not limited by, you have to be in my presence. So, if you want to, you can give them my contact information. That's up to you. But it's like, that's what I would say, is that if there's anybody out there that is wanting help, regardless of where they live, I would love to be able to do that if we need to do it virtually, or if we do appointments. I do appointments where I basically answer questions. So we do consults, and it's like, my purpose is to help people. And it's like, I'm hoping that this tonight helps somebody, at least one person. Maybe it'll be just entertaining. That'll be perfect. So it'll be a half hour of entertainment.
Well, I've learned a lot. I know Jim.
I promise you, what you've shared is extremely valuable, especially if they apply the things that you've shared, because you have a lifetime of information that you just shared in the last 30 minutes that they can glean from and apply to their lives to have the kind of life you're enjoying.
Well said.
And I'm enjoying a life that I'm happy. I have Salevo to help me. Like I told you, my scenario is unique, and I'm glad I have all the tools that they have provided. Very grateful.
Yeah, we're grateful
Same
you're
here.
here. Yes, all three of us. So we always do kind of yell out, force for good. So here we go. And you can or you can't, it's up to you. Jim and I will act goofy. So again, everybody, thanks for being here. Dr. Troy, love and light. God bless. 1, 2, 3.
Force for good.
Force for good.
A force to be reckoned with.
My wife yelled from downstairs, so we're good to go. So I love you guys. Take care.
Thank you so much, Dr. Troy. Have a great one.
welcome.
Robert, always great.
Thank you.
Right back
Good
in.
night.
Thank you now. Bye-bye. Night, everybody.